Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. Craig's having some technical difficulties, so we're going to try to hang in here as best we can. Craig's having some technical difficulties.
We got two of them going on at the same time now. So, is it giving you any feedback on that side?
I'm just hearing an echo. I hear me, and then I hear me again. Once is enough. Whoops, I lost him. Okay, he's coming back. In the meantime, hello to everybody who's here. Hello to Linda and Lisa and Anita, and Janet, and let's see, Mara and Viviani. Thank y'all for coming. And Craig will be back in a minute. He was having difficulties getting connected, and then it looks like I lost him, so he'll be back. As Arnold always says, I'll be back. And it's just been, I'll be back. There we go. Okay.
That feels better.
that feels better.
Now I'm not craning my neck.
There we go. Okay.
Trying to do this. That feels better.
Definitely got an echo going.
Now that we got an echo?
Now I'm not craning my neck.
There we go. Okay.
Trying to do this. That feels better.
Definitely got an echo going.
All right. We'll cut the echo.
That's okay. There we go. Okay. Like I said, take your time.
All right. We'll cut the echo.
That's okay. We'll work out the kinks. Like I said, take your time. We'll work out the kinks. Like I said, take your time. We probably could have got this worked out earlier, except I had family come in, and so it kind of threw my whole morning off. I had family come in, and so it kind of threw my whole morning off.
Are we still getting an echo?
I had family come in, and so it kind of threw my whole morning off.
Oh, sure.
Oh yeah, still got us an echo.
Okay, this one's
You
on.
might have to turn one of them off.
Oh,
Oh yeah, still got us an echo. Or maybe mute. You might have to turn one of them off. Oh yeah, still got us an echo.
Okay.
Or maybe mute. You might have to turn one of them off. Oh yeah, still got us an echo.
There.
Yay!
Oh, good.
Oh,
good.
No echo.
All right. Well, yeah, Clara lived from 1905 until 1965. She came to fame in the 1920s, and she was one of the original flappers, and got into movies, and she just had natural talent to begin with, and she
Yeah.
had bucket loads. I mean, she glowed, and she just came across like that. So when I saw her in a film as a child, well, I say a child now because I was a lot younger then, and she came across in a film that I saw, and it was Wings the first time I saw it. And then I go, oh my God, I'd love to meet a woman just like that. And I said, and I looked at the picture when I saw her, and I said, God, if there is Clara, if you really are out there, if there's an afterlife, can I at least say hi to her and let her know what she's done in my life, And in the worst times of my life, she's always cheered me up. She never failed to. And when I saw that, all of, I never saw her picture up before then. I had to really, really study and try to remember if I ever saw her. But when I saw that picture, it was like instant recognition. Boom, the lights came on.
Yeah.
And I go, there's something here, I thought. And then I ask, and then I asked that sincere prayer, and I said, if I can't make it so like that, if I can't meet her, let me meet a girl like her. And things started happening after that. And then I went to the hospital, and it was a young age then when I went to the hospital. I was in the military, and it was about a year after this picture here. And there I am in the picture, right there, next to the instructor on the first row.
I see you. Okay.
Yeah, that was me a long time ago. And let me drag my finger across it. Let me see. There I am.
Yep, right there. I see you. That's a good
Brown.
picture. I
Well, it
got a
was
very similar one of my son when he was in the Navy.
and well, I asked her, was it around that time that we met? And she goes, yeah, about a year after that, she said. And I got hospitalized. I went to the hospital. I got really ill. And it turned out that, it was rheumatoid arthritis. And that has a bunch of problems and baggage that comes with it. And I didn't know what
Oh
was going
yeah.
on. And they put me in the hospital for about 6 months. And this was during the mid 1980s. There was an AIDS scare going on.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing they thought, and then it wasn't that, and I had a lot of friends that just stopped coming by. They stopped talking to me. They started assuming, and people were suspicious, especially military people. You say one thing wrong or you get one thing wrong, and then they come down on you hard. So that's how it
Yeah.
was. And automatically, if they see you vote Democrat, you're not part of the clique anymore. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I kept
I
talking.
remember my very first election that I
Mhm,
finally went and registered and voted in was for Bill Clinton.
mhm.
And I didn't tell a soul
You didn't
because I
keep
live
telling.
down here in South Louisiana, and it's like, keep that to myself.
Yeah, you learn to keep a lot of things to yourself. So I went to the hospital, as I started getting well, I met two nurses there at the foot of my bed one morning. They were there for orientation, telling me what the hospital was like and stuff like that. And one was on, as I'm looking at them, one was on the left, and she was kind of she got around, let's put it that way, and she was acting flirty and stuff like this, and she was a kind of a turnoff. She was attractive, but I something about
Just
her
came
that,
on too strong.
yeah, it made me kind of uncomfortable. And then I looked at the other one, and then she was like a bright, shining light. All of a sudden, I got taken in by her smile and her giggling, and she started acting real girlish. And then I don't want to use their names because I think they're still alive and running around today. And we don't want blowback. And
Right, right.
she took care of me. She took care of me. She was very professional, very shy, and all those things. A young lady is. And I really remembered her. I wish I could say her first name and last because I owe her that at least. On that level, she took care of me. And then later on, Clara came through and she says, we met in 1987 around the time of the Challenger disaster. And what had happened was you were hospitalized, and I that was the time for me to come forward, and I took the nurse's body and I took care of you. That's what she told me.
Oh, that
And
is so awesome.
And I thought that was kind of creepy, and I kind of raised my eyes at this, and I looked at my cousin, and I said, my cousin was right here at the time, and she's getting all this secondhand because she's more of a medium than I am. People claim I'm one, but I get visions in my sleep, and I wake up the next morning and I get them. And sometimes something will happen in front of me, and then or right behind me, and then I go, whoa, that's what that was. I put it all together by then.
Yeah.
I'm not quick at it like other mediums and stuff like that, but
Well,
people.
I've had several very strong psychics tell me that I was a medium, but it's like I've not really experienced anything with it.
Mhm.
I mean, there have
So
been a
I'm alone in it, huh?
few times over the years where something kind of happened that made me take pause, but it never went any further. And then when I got involved in this community and started reading the cards and learning, um, it's like the more I do, the stronger my talents are starting to show themselves. And
I hope
that
so.
one just hasn't shown up yet all the way.
I hope
I had
so.
a funeral to go to about a month ago, I guess it was.
Uh-huh.
And when I drove into the parking lot, it hit me. And I said, you know what? I'm really not ready to see dead people yet. So
Mhm.
let me just have just an enjoyable part of being at this funeral, and then I can leave. Don't
Mhm.
send me any dead people. And they didn't. So I was very glad for that because I didn't want to
Yeah,
trip anybody out.
yeah. Today on
And
Allie's channel, I asked a question where I asked kind of my dad, like, is this going to get better? Am I going to get better at it? And he goes, "Whoa, son, slow down. Take your time with it. You need to process it. Let it happen to you. It will happen, but take your time doing it." And
right.
and I didn't. I'm impatient. I'm in my 50s now, and I'm wondering when's it going to happen.
Yeah.
And behold, it has. Already. And what had happened was I was in the hospital. We met, and she took care of me, and I started getting well. And then they told me what it was, and then I wondered how I got that. Rheumatoid arthritis. They joke about military food as being crappy, and it is sometimes. When you eat the same old thing every day, every month, you have to go somewhere and get a
Or you
diversion.
have nothing to eat at all if you're poor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that, and then they feed you. I mean, back then I only weighed like 135 pounds, and I'm 5'9". So what had happened was, I was they put me on the rapid weight gain program. So that meant eat 6 times a day and eat a full meal and make sure the food sticks to you. So that's what they made me do. So and that's bad things too can happen to you. You get poor eating habits and you get sick. And I thought, well, maybe I ate something bad that set off the rheumatoid arthritis. So I
Did you
attributed
see
it to
what
that.
Linda just wrote?
No, I didn't see it.
Okay, I don't know if you could see. I pinned it up here.
I see it now.
Linda, yeah, said that we're both beautiful, beautiful R's, and we're both mediums.
Oh, okay.
Wow. I know I had met Susan Lynn, psychic medium, and Jen from Jen's World Tarot. They had gone to New Orleans last Christmas, and on their way back to Houston, they have to go right through my city to get there. My town's right on I-10. And so we stopped and met, had lunch together. And as we were leaving the restaurant, Jen had gone on ahead, and she was like at their vehicle on the other side of the parking lot. And I was standing next to my car with Susan. And Susan turned around to say something to me, facing me. And she kind of took a step back and she said, "Wow, you have the biggest angel I've ever seen right behind you, wings unfurled, like on duty." And I was like, "Really?" And she's like, "Yeah, it's gorgeous. And I'm looking and I'm like, "I don't see anything." She's like, "No, I can see him. He's right there." At that time, Jen comes walking back from across the parking lot. She gets about 6 or 7 steps away and she stops. And she says, "Wow, Sherry, you've got the biggest angel I've ever seen right behind you." And Susan said, "I just told her that." And I'm like, "Oh my God, I've got 2 of you seeing this." So it's got to be true in my mind, But so I know I shared it with a friend and they were like, "Well, maybe that's why really, really bad things always seems to just miss you, because they're there to kind of block it, send it over a little bit."
Some things do avoid me, and some things don't. Of course, I guess those are part of a learning lesson. But I wondered why I got sick like that. And then Sterling told me that he goes, "I'm taking that you got bit by something. You got bit by a tick," and that all makes sense.
Ah,
Yeah, the Air Force, what they used to do is when you're not doing anything and you're off, they knock on your door, boom, 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 boom. And they go, "Congratulations, you got Bay Orderly." And I go, "Well, what's that?" And they go, "Okay, you're going to find out. We're going to put you on cutting grass today." And so you're out there, doing that and pulling weeds. And when you're doing that, that's how I could have gotten bit. So
very easily. Yeah.
now, and
Ticks are bad down here in the South because of the heat and the humidity, and they get on your animals really easy if your animals spend a lot of time outside and then come in the house, and they can get up in the furniture and in the bed, and yeah, it can be a real pain in the backside dealing with them.
yeah, so it's strange I got it there as opposed to getting it like on the reservation somewhere, and there it's cleaner, So I don't know. Anything could happen to you at any given moment. So
Yeah.
that's suffered through it. And then
I know I
go,
lived right next to a reservation when I lived in Phoenix. I was actually living in Scottsdale, and literally a block from where my complex was the highway, and the other side of the highway was where the reservation began. And I used to go over there whenever I could to go buy things. Just one, it was cheaper, but 2, everybody was just so much more friendly, and it was cleaner,
And I think you mentioned something about there's no taxes and you could buy cigarettes cheaper there one time.
Oh yeah, that was it. I would go over there to get cigarettes.
Here's
And
what the uniform looked like for females when at the hospital is at.
mhm.
not like that. She did not like that. She says, I hated that stupid little hat right there. And she goes, I hated the white hose too. She goes like that. I hated that.
Oh, I'm sure.
She was laughing about it in a good humor about it, but you know, and I don't know. Here's a fun picture of Clara that I do enjoy.
Oh, I've seen that picture before.
So
Oh,
that's
I've seen her before. Yeah.
so when you look when she does project herself, that's what I see sometimes. And one time in a photo, when this all started, Kim's Intuitive did it for me. She did a reading, and I asked for Clara to come through. And she was doing like a night under the stars, they called it. I think that's what the show was called, about a year ago. And my mom was still here at that time. So I asked for Clara Bow. And I go, how is she doing? Is she well? And things like this. And she came across, and then she said that, yes, Craig, I know you. I've seen you. And letting you know that I'm okay. And then she was impressed with the way that Kim and Debbie Freeberg read her, and it was something else. And then they were going through their list of impressive women to showcase, and that's another show they do too. They women, and then they picked Clara Bow, and I asked them to do it again, and then they did. Lo and behold, they did. And what had happened was, here's what the beds looked like too in that hospital. They were just your standard army beds that look like that. And everything was painted like an off-white color. And that's what the hospital looked like way, way back then in the 80s.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I was on the second floor, 2 East. I remember that. And she even said that back to me. She goes, that's where we met, on 2 East.
Oh, wow. That's so cool.
And she goes, yeah, I remember that like yesterday. I was there. I witnessed all that, and I saw it all. So I said,
I know growing up as a child, I mean, when I was a little girl, around 4 or 5 years old, I would hear a man talk to me, a male voice. Think Darth Vader, James Earl Jones.
Okay.
That was the voice I heard. And he would just talk to me, and I would talk back. And somebody would walk in the room, and they would be like, who are you talking to? I say, God. They go, okay. And not a big deal. And then when I was 8, I had a complete and total deja vu experience. We had gone to Florida, 3 states. We lived in Texas. We'd gone to Florida. And when we arrived, when we got out of the car and walked into the people's house, the minute I walked through the door, I stopped and went, oh, I've been here before. And everybody was like, no, you've never been here before. We've never even been to this state before. I was like, no. I said, I've been here before. This is so-and-so's room and so-and-so's room. I named all the rooms, what was in each room, what color was in each room. I just knew it was like I saw it and didn't know I had seen it. But when I walked through the front door, it was like, oh, okay, I know exactly where I'm at. And I remember my mom just looking at me and going, oh, you've got the gift. And that's all she said. It was never discussed. It was never made a big deal. But evidently, all the women in our family, going back for generations, have had variations of psychic abilities. My mother would get visions, but she would get visions of people's death, especially if they were really tragic or horrendous, sudden, that kind of thing. I remember one time she was a bartender at the NCO club there right off of base. We lived in Florida. And she was tending bar. There was some people sitting at a table. 2 of them were retired pilots that taught. They taught flight school on the base with some other folks there. And she was doing her thing, and she looked up to see if they needed to get a refill. And boom, this vision hit her, and she saw the 2 pilots in a plane together, and the plane exploding in midair and them dying in a fiery death. And she said she literally dropped the glass in the sink. It took her by surprise. She said, and she no sooner saw the vision than she heard a voice off to the side of her say, "Don't tell them what you saw." As she turned around and looked, there's a man sitting at the end of the bar. The bar is like one of those long L-shaped type bars. Well, the door was on the opposite end. The only way that man could have got to that seat was to walk in front of her. No one had come through. The place was just about empty. It was just the group at the table and a couple of other people scattered. She looked at him and she said, "Excuse me." And she said that he told her, "Don't tell them what you saw. It's not your place to tell them. You just need to know what happened."
Mhm.
And so she didn't tell them. And the next day they were on base.
It would bother me.
A new jet had been brought in for a test flight, and there weren't any pilots available. And these two guys were like, "Well, we'll take it up. We'll go and give it a test run." Sure enough, the plane exploded in midair. And I only knew the story was because she came home and she was so upset and she was crying, almost hysterical. And her sister was there. She was also a bartender. And my aunt, I remember my aunt telling her, "You did what you were supposed to do. He told you not to tell and you didn't, but you know what happened. So just keep that. That's for you to know and no one else." And that's when I found out, because my aunt took it like, "Oh yeah, okay, you saw a vision, like no big deal." It was weird. My grandmother would tell you, "Go get the phone. So and so's calling." 5 minutes later, it would be so and so on the phone calling you. How did she know? I mean, this was back in the day of party lines, and the phone was on the wall, and you were considered lucky. If you had a 50-foot cord, you could walk across the room with it.
If you were lucky.
Yeah, that was just at my grandmother's house.
Right after Kim did that show, about 2 months later in the summertime, she did it in April of 2021, and then her and Debbie did it, and then about a month and a half later, I was going to sleep in my room just back there. I was going to bed, and it was about lunchtime. I had to lie down. I wasn't feeling too good. It was in the middle of the summertime. It was getting hot, so I lied down on the bed and I dozed off for maybe 15 minutes. As I started lulling into that position where you just go into sleep, I heard all of a sudden on this side, my left side, I heard somebody whisper in my ear, and it was a real sweet, lovely, angelic voice, and I know who it was. It was Clara, and I go, "Oh my gosh!" I go, "I did hear that," and then it made me smile because it was something. I don't want to repeat it. It's between me and Clara, and I just got a smile and went right off to sleep, and 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 then I got up after I took my nap and went back out there and told my mother, and she goes, "Oh my gosh, well, I guess you're part of that too." She goes like that, she just accepted it because they've been around longer, they've heard different stories from different family members, so she just accepted it. And then about a week later, I got a flash. I'm sitting on this couch right here, and right there in the corner is a coat and doorway. Just I'm looking right at it right now, and what I saw was this picture. And she looked,
wow.
and she moved. She went like this, and then she got a big smile. And I go, "Oh my God, I did see that." I go, and it was about just a split second in my head, and I go, "I did see what I saw." And I told my mom, I went over there and I told my mom, "I just saw that." And my mom looked at me and she didn't treat me like I was crazy or anything. She just, okay, and that's how we accepted it. And in the picture, it wasn't black and white like that. It was, of course, sort of sepia colored, like it wasn't color, but it was brown and white looking instead of black. So that's what I did see. And there was a funny picture too. I found this picture on the internet of her, and I showed it to her, and she was standing right next to me, and she goes, "I'm looking up in that picture, and that when that picture was taken, the cameraman, the guy that was taking my picture, he had a little booger in his nose." I go, "Really, Clara?" And she goes, "Yeah, that's what happened on that day." And I go, "Oh, okay." And then I asked her about different other things too in her life, and then I showed her this picture. This is a picture of her when she was a little girl, maybe
Oh,
one.
wow.
And she goes, "Where did you get that picture?" And I go, "We found it, via the internet, so you can find a lot of things out these days."
Oh,
And
yeah.
she was
That's
she was really happy to see that. I'm glad she did. And we started building a closer relationship, and a lot of things fell into place. I found more and more that I wasn't afraid of it. And the first time that I ever got something like that was way back in 1981 or so. I'm going to pinpoint the day. I think it was June 3rd. Uh,
that's my birthday.
yeah, I was watching TV, and all of a sudden, our TV stations came out of Los Angeles. They were all KHJ,
Mhm.
KTLA, KTTV, and ACOP. Those are what channels we got, and luckily in Gallup, it kept me from boredom. I mean, these were great channels. I mean, they show the old Paramount movies, the old,
Oh, yeah, I love those old classic
mhm.
channels.
And it was
Yeah.
just great. And the Saturday mornings, they had a guy on there. His name was Tom Hatton, and he would draw Popeye and show kids how to do that too. And it was just something to enjoy as a child. So after that was over, I'd go to their old movies and watch those. And that's how I got to appreciate the movies more and more. And
Yeah.
then when I saw, that's not where I saw Clara the first time. It was a few years later when I saw Wings, and I go, man, that's when I saw her, and that's when I made that prayer.
Yeah.
But
It's funny because I've always been a movie buff. I've always loved movies. My
mhm,
late husband was a big movie buff. I mean, we had our version of a movie game that we would play, and at any given moment, no, nobody even knows you're going to do it. Somebody would throw a line out, and the goal was that everybody else had to tell you what movie it came from, who said it, and who were they talking to, or
oh
what was
yeah,
the incident in the movie.
hmm
And my husband was like nobody could beat him until
hmm
our son got to around 10. And after
hmm
that, he was like, okay, no, you definitely better than me now. And
yeah,
then I'm looking, I put this up. Linda put, she has heavy stigmata. And that's wild. I've never known anybody with a stigmata. I've read about it.
hmm
So I know it happens, but
yeah. Mhm. So, the first time that happened was on that day way back in '81, and the first thing we got was it was noontime. My brother and I were watching TV. It was during our school break and summertime break. We were watching TV, and on the news it came. There was this gentleman. He was in the Wild Wild West. His name was he played Artemis Gordon part. His name was Ross Martin. That was his name, and
mhm.
he came on there and he was talking about a tennis match they were having for charity. He was dressed in his polo whites and he had a headband on and he's holding a tennis racket. He's doing an interview, and I go, yeah, he still looks the same as he did maybe 10 years ago when that show came to an end. So I thought, okay. And then later on that day, me and my brother were still, came by and we had the TV still on. That TV would run all day long in our house.
Oh yeah.
And so what had happened was Walter Cronkite comes on and he goes, "Sad news today out of Los Angeles. Actor Ross Martin passed away." You know, and I right after that lunchtime show, I looked at my brother and I said, "He's going to die." And I don't know where I got that from. Right at when we saw him earlier in the day, he's going to die. I mean, it's going to happen real quick, and and it happened that afternoon. And my brother and I looked at each other in complete shock. And that's the first time it happened to me. But I said, I was raised a Catholic, and I thought, I don't need to see that. I don't want to see that. I don't want to. These are people I love. I don't want to see them perish like that. I don't want to know that. And so nothing happened until 1987, and when Clara came into my life, and that's when it started all up again. And with Clara, it was a different road. Everything was enlightenment, beauty, and gentleness, and all that. And
Right.
when I got real sick in the hospital about the beginning of this year, I went up there for high blood pressure, and I got scared. She got scared too. We were coming out of the hospital, and then she says, take the slow way home. And I said, I don't know what's going to happen. I got to follow a diet. I got to stop all these things. I can't have this no more. And I'm going to be a little bit more grouchier, but
Yeah, it's hard when they lower the boom on you.
Yeah, it scared me, and I think my blood pressure got up to like 185 over 100, and I'm
Yeah.
normally 20 over 80. And that really scared the heck out of me. So I came back real slow, and we got out of the car, and I looked at Clara and I said, Clara, all I can tell you is that walking through with life with you, dear, has been a very gracious thing. It's been a very gracious
And
thing.
soon you'll be together.
And then I went in the house, and it has been a gracious thing. So the next morning, I started doing as they said, stop the salt, stop drinking Coca-Cola, stop doing this. I sneak one now and then.
I was going
But
to say it'd be hard for me to give up my Coca-Cola.
Dr. Pepper, all that, anything. And I shouldn't be drinking it, but I do. I mean, leave me that and leave me cussing. I want those two things at least to have.
Yeah,
But
at least a little bit, a little taste every now and again. And
yes, yeah. So, and then somebody called me and asked me, "Do you drink anymore?" And I said, "No." Smoke? I go, no, I don't do any of that stuff because it opens a portal. It opens something up that I'd rather leave closed. Because when I drink, I found out that maybe one or two drinks, I go to sleep, and then I start getting nightmares. So I don't need that to open up again like that. I don't need to see that. So that's why I stay away from drinking. And today it's just soft drinks. And I'm lucky if I have a Hawaiian punch, and I'm happy with that. And
yeah,
I confine myself to those things, and I spend a lot of time, nowadays on the phone with my daughter and my grandchildren. I have two now, and they're the loves of my
well,
life.
that's great. That's
So
great.
that's how I convert my time to now. And in the native way, when the first time, there's usually two reasons somebody does something to you negative. It's usually because they're jealous, or because they're jealous. They're jealous, or they want to get even with you. Those are the really only two reasons somebody tries to hurt you in the native culture. And you run into a lot of that when you go out to the res. Um, somebody's jealous because you married a pretty looking girl. Somebody's jealous because you make a little bit more money than they do. Somebody's jealous because, you might talk a little
Happens
bit
in the white man's world too.
than they do. They get upset. They get jealous, for stupid reasons. And then they put hexes on you. So you go get them reversed. You go do what you need to do to get rid of them.
We have voodoo down here.
Yeah, it's the same thing too, and
Yep.
it's getting that combination to that, to get it unlocked and to get yourself free from their hold, so you can be
Yeah.
lucky in life.
Yeah, I know in
And
the Cajun culture we have we're called traiteurs. They're like a medicine man or a medicine woman.
mhm,
They're healers. And
mhm,
I had always heard about them. I had never met one until we had a lady that had moved in to the mobile home next to ours, where we were living when my son was in first grade.
mhm,
And he got real sick one afternoon, started complaining, my ear hurts, my ear hurts. Went to go look. He was running a high fever. My husband and I both like freaking out, saying, okay, we got to go to the emergency room. And in the middle of trying to pack him up to take him to the ER, she comes knocking on the door,
mhm,
wanting to borrow an egg or sugar or something. I don't remember what it was.
mhm,
And my husband said, yeah, the kitchen's right there. Help yourself, whatever you need. We're trying to get ready. We're going to the ER. And
mhm,
she was like, oh, what's wrong? And we said, well, Lewis has earache and a fever, and it just came up suddenly. And she was like, well, can I pray over him? And we're like, sure, yeah, go ahead, knock yourself out. You know, we neither one of us were big believers in that at the time.
mhm,
And she sat down with him and she laid his head in her lap. And she started like rubbing on his ear and
mhm,
she started praying in tongues.
mhm,
And she did this for about 5 minutes. And then
mhm,
she stood up. She says, he'll be fine. And she took her egg or sugar or whatever it was and she left. And before we could turn around to finish getting preparations to leave, he's up bouncing around like normal. No fever, no earache, no nothing. It was
mhm.
that fast.
Yeah,
And it was like, okay, wow.
yeah. When I go get cleared out
We
on the
both had to
reservation,
step back and go, okay, wait a minute. That was not what we
no,
expected.
yeah, because when something happens to me, I go out there every 4 to 6 months or so, and when I do go out there, same thing. I get ready early that morning, take off, have, I look at it like they're not hurting me. I enjoy driving. I enjoy it. Trip. I play the radio, have a good time. And when I get down there, I do what I need to do. I meet my relatives. We get it done, and then the reversing uh, thing that I have to do. And I come back
Yeah.
singing, having a good time, and taking everything in and smiling, and then it's like a weight got lifted off of me, and I don't
Yeah.
experience those issues anymore. Now, if I could harness that in myself to where then I could save my poor relatives the trouble of doing this all the time, and but they said that there's you can ask for it, but you have to go through a lot of processes, and and you have to open up that world to you. So I did ask for it, but in a different way. So instead of being like a hands-on, medicine man that has to have the knowledge of the plants, the culture, the language, and everything, you know, I can probably diagnose it, and that's probably the route I'll take,
Yeah.
So that's starting into it, and I can recognize when somebody has a problem, and it takes a little skill, it takes a lot of work and a lot of
Yeah.
things
Well,
like
and
that.
you have to be willing to open yourself up. I mean, I know I'm an empath as well. And so I tend to take in emotions.
Hmm.
If I'm around other people, I will absorb their emotions, which makes them feel great. And then I feel like crap. But,
Hmm.
what are you going to do? And I haven't learned how to control it that well yet. It's still, and that's been like that all my life. I can remember certain
Yeah.
friends that you kind of dread going to spend time with them because you're going to be completely drained
Hmm. They
after
suck
the
your
visit,
energy.
because you soak up all of that negativity, and it can be difficult, but still, it's just
I was
being
doing
able to,
I was doing that unknowingly, because I would Clara would give me something to do, and I'd go do it, and and I got kind of like overwhelmed there, because and Diane's Cheryl, she told me you need to limit it somewhat, just
yeah,
a certain amount of hours, and then stop it and do it a certain amount of hours, and then you let them know what you're doing now. And in my
yeah,
case, I have to tell Clara when I'm going somewhere, too. I say, Clara, I'm going to go over to get the mail at the mailbox, or I'm going to go down and get some groceries. You're welcome to come with me. You're welcome to go to my appointments with me and do things like that. I'm not doing anything out of the ordinary. I'm not like going to, you know, buy liquor or anything stupid like that. I don't do any of that.
yeah,
I live a pretty boring life nowadays. So, that's kind of what it is. And she'll come along. She'll you know, let me know what's going on and things like that. And
right.
it's not instantaneously. I wish I had that. I asked her, "Will I ever get that?" And she goes, "Keep trying at it. It will come." But you're trying too hard. She said, "You're trying too hard." So I said, "Okay, well,
That's
I got
where I was starting to give myself headaches when I first started opening
that."
myself back up to this, because I was
Mhm.
trying too hard, wanting to feel something. And
Mhm.
I just, one night as I was going to bed, I say I hear, but I don't physically hear a voice anymore. But
Mhm.
I just knew suddenly, stop
Oh,
trying so hard. Just
and then
relax. It'll come
relax.
when it comes.
And then she
And
told, well, I don't hear it like my cousin does. She hears it instantaneously, and she can, like we're talking, but I
yeah,
don't. It takes me a while, and then I just don't want to ever do anything that will piss her off, hurt her feelings, or destroy her as a human being. I don't ever want to do any of those things, because
right,
I've seen her cry in movies, and if I seen her cry in real life or get angry at me, oh, that would be too much for me. It would
right. Yeah.
destroy me.
Because she matters.
Because yes,
Regardless if she's in
mhm,
this realm or not, it doesn't matter. When
yeah,
there's someone that you have an attachment to,
mhm.
when they hurt, you hurt. And
Mhm.
if you're the cause of that hurt, it's
Oh,
even more devastating.
well,
Um,
yeah. Before my mom passed, she was 79, and she had heart problems, or not heart problems, but she was going in that direction of having a stroke. And she had other problems too, other physical ailments. And she would tell me when she had a stomach ache. She would tell me when she had a headache, and I could feel this stuff. I could feel it. It
yeah,
hurt. Like And then I had to go lie down and take a nap because she was feeling bad. And then the morning she passed, I woke up and physically I felt like I was 20 years old again. But when I went in her room and I saw her dead, emotionally I just fell apart.
Yeah.
I fell apart. Because it happened when I wasn't there, and
Yeah.
I'll forever blame myself for that. I wish I could have been there to say goodbye. But later on I found out that things happen that way for a reason.
Yeah.
And,
Well, I know when my husband died, we were getting prepared. He was getting ready to have a fifth back surgery. All of the discs in his back were disintegrated, and it was just bone on bone. And they were telling him, "You'll never walk again. You'll never this again. You'll never that again." And so it was difficult because the pain levels he was in was so high that, I mean, I have a back injury myself now and deal with it, and I can't imagine the pain levels that he was in. I know how bad it was for me, but his was 100 times worse. And there was that one Friday that I had been mad at him most of the day. He had done something that really pissed me off, and almost all day I was just furious with him. And then early in the evening, he came out and into the living room and apologized. He said, I know I hurt your feelings. I'm sorry. Can you forgive me? And I'm like, yeah, everything's cool. And so, we hugged. We said, I love you. And he's like, I'm going to go lay down. And the next time I went back in the bedroom to check him, he was dead. And it was just, I don't know how long he laid there dead before I went back there, but I did CPR on him for 20 minutes waiting for the ambulance to get there. And then they worked on him for a good 45 minutes before the doctor on the phone just called it and said, it's been too long. He's not coming back. And that all happened the night before our son's 17th birthday. And it's like, that's a hard time to lose your dad, because he and his daddy were like this. They were two peas in a pod. And, but that's a hard thing to deal with. I watched my grandma draw her last breath, and then and it was just like, did I just see what I think I just saw? And, I saw the breath go in and it never came out, and it just, she was gone. And, so yeah, that can be tough when you have to go through that, especially as an empath or someone that's open to the other side, because it's like you almost feel it on a deeper level.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I'm really grappling today.
About 2 weeks after that, I was asleep, and in a dream I saw a black and white, a color picture, like those old cinematic cameras we had as kids, and it looked like faded color. And my mom was walking away from me in the picture, and she was wearing the same clothes she was when she passed. And I go, okay, well, now I know what that means. And then I took it as, well, you weren't supposed to see what happened. It's just that way. And then later on, my cousin did a little bit of mediumship and brought her through. And she says, I'm so sorry, Craig. I'm so sorry. And I go, you have nothing to be sorry about. I'm sorry, because we kind of got into a row before, like my sister and my nephew, they like to drain money from my mother. And they used her like a checkbook. So I'm still kind of upset about that now. After she passed, I'm starting to find all these bills,
Yeah.
So,
that makes it hard. Jerry, I agree. He did need my forgiveness before he could pass.
So
and
he
knew that. He knew. I know that he did not want me to live with that guilt. He wanted to make sure that we were good before he went and laid down and left. And it's weird because looking back, I can tell that I'm pretty sure he knew his time was coming at any moment, because he started saying things or telling me things about, well, when I die, I want you to do this, or don't do that, or I don't want people looking at me in a coffin. I'd be like, baby, you're going to be dead. What difference does it make? He's like, I don't want people looking at me in a coffin. So It's like, okay, nobody but his immediate family, his brothers and sisters, and my immediate family saw him in the coffin. We completely skipped that as for anybody else, because it was like this. He didn't want it. I'm not going to let it happen. And and with my mom, she had gone into hospice care about 3 months before she passed. She had dementia, real bad. Her brain was literally shriveling up, and by the time she died, she couldn't talk anymore. She didn't know who she was, where she was, who we were. Um, None of that stuff. And so the day before she died, the hospice nurse called us and said, it's going to be today or tomorrow. I feel it. Come say your goodbyes now. And so we all went that day and spent a little time with her each to tell her goodbye. And the last thing I told her was, we're going to be okay. You can go. You can go rest now. It's going to be okay. And it was several hours later when she passed. And it was hard because that was right as COVID was hitting just before. And so
My mom
didn't do the funeral thing or anything like that. So I always felt like I cheated her out of something, but it was beyond my control. But she sits this way, about 25 feet. My brother and I bought 2 matching urns, one for him and one for me, and we just split her ashes in 2. So we each have our own urn, and we've got her sitting on a shelf with pictures and everything, and she's still watching over everybody. still ruling the roost, so to speak. And
I asked my cousin, I go, does my mom follow me around here? Is she here? She goes, yeah, Auntie's here. Don't worry about that. She knows when to come and go. Sometimes she visits my mom. Sometimes she visits, your sisters and brother. She's spending a lot of time with your brother and your parents on that side. I said,
yeah,
okay, that seems to make sense. And, she'll come back and, tell me, but she wanted to let me know that, that she was sorry. And I go, Mom, you have nothing to be sorry about. It's me that should be sorry. Maybe I should in time. Well, I will forgive my sisters, and the youngest sister, her name is.
It'll just take time.
Yeah. The youngest sister, she fell apart completely, and she just stayed in her house, and never came back out after that, and, I try to call her. She's never there. She doesn't pick up her phone. She doesn't talk to anybody. And so I have to go physically over there and talk to her. And then she's starting to feel a little bit better. So the other sister, she's just as mean as all get out. So I don't even mess with her. The one that likes to take the money. So, yeah, and I found all these bills, and, I had to challenge them in court, and, the lawyer and all that. And they got a lot of them dismissed, and they have no hold against me or my family for the bills that my mom was trying to pay back. She would take these loans out for my sister and her nephew, or her grandson, and they don't like to work. They don't like to get a job. They don't like to do any of that stuff, and that's what ticked me off. And, my mom kept a lot of this stuff hidden until I found this out. But I remember as a kid in 1976, my father died. He died on Christmas Day. And then about a month later, we were all in mourning. It was in January, about January 20th or so. The phone rang. It was one of those old-time phones, And remember, the first ring would scare the hell out of you. And then,
it would always get you off guard.
my mom picked it up, and then she goes, yeah, hello. And then she thought it was work. But no, she goes, it's me. And who's me? And she goes, it's me, Benjamin. Can you hear me? And then it freaked her out. My mom goes, yeah, I hear you. She goes, he said something like, I just wanted to get in touch with you before everything, before I can. And then that's what he said. And then the phone got staticky, and my mom got scared, and she hung it up. And then just before she passed, she remembered that phone call, and then she told me about it. And I go, wow. So that would happen a long time ago, didn't it? She goes, yeah, it did happen.
Yeah.
It was his voice.
I know, because dementia it's I know Terry just put it in here. She said it's a slow goodbye. I mean, You spend years watching the person you know and love disappear as their memory goes and their personality changes, and somebody that was sweet and caring becomes mean and ugly. And um about, I guess, about a week or two before my mom got put in hospice care, she was having one of those weepy days where she just cried all day, and she didn't know why. She didn't know what she was crying about. She just couldn't stop. And and it as the child in charge, so to speak, you want to do something, make her feel better. And I couldn't think of anything. And so I finally got her to lay down, take a little nap. She slept about 30 minutes, and then she woke up still in that crying phase. And I was trying to comfort her, and suddenly she just kind of turned and looked at me. And it was her. It wasn't the person she was currently. It was her before the dementia hit. And she just looked at me. She says, "I don't want to be like this anymore." And then, boom, she was gone. And so I know that was just her. They're in there, even though the dementia destroys so much. The person's still in there, I feel, and knows what's going on. And she just wanted me to know that that's not how she wanted to live. And so when it got close to the end, we were like, just let it happen naturally. We're not going to prolong it, because I knew that she did not want to have to be like that anymore. And it can be a difficult thing to kind of deal with, especially when you weren't expecting it. It's like after that happened, and then after she went into the nursing home, it was like I would have given anything to have had that 15 seconds back. So yeah, it can be tough. And as empaths, as mediums, I think we're the lucky ones in that we get to cross that bridge to hopefully bring comfort to someone else who's lost someone.
I think so.
As well as comfort to ourselves.
Only with that, yes. I think so.
And,
because
I think that once we realize we have that skill, I feel it's important to try to strengthen it, because there are going to be a lot of people that are going to get helped because of it. And that's why I do all of this, so I can help others. It's fun. I have a blast with it. I meet lots of really nice people from around the world, which has been wonderful. But
the one thing I know is that I did help Clara. I did help her with her son and her other son. That felt good, because Sterling told me that's the way it was supposed to be. It was written that you were supposed to do it. And,
he is so plugged in, it's scary.
He told me that, don't worry about it, and I go, well, what does, a beautiful movie star have to do with, a kid born on the poor side of Los Angeles, a Native American guy. And, well, that's just the way it was,
Yeah.
It's just the way it was. So I go, oh, okay, well, I guess I'm all right with that, so.
Yeah.
And then she made an issue about it either. I go, does it bother you that, I'm not white? And she goes, that has nothing to do with this side, nothing to do, because all of that changes on this side. We were different people at different times and stuff like that. So,
yeah.
And, a different Kim, what's her name? Medium Kim, the one that goes on the channel. She told me that it's quite possibly that you share more than one incarnation. So when you cross over, you're a guide for her. Back and forth. This has been going on for some time. So I'm starting to find a little bit more out as I'm finding it out, And I'm very careful with this stuff too, because I don't want to mess up, I don't want to give somebody the wrong reading or whatever,
Exactly. Kate's here. She said hi to you.
Oh, hi, Kate. How are you?
I love watching her. I got to get you on too, Kate. So I have to get your email from Allie. And
I think Clara likes her too.
Yeah.
I think all, there's some that, that Clara I don't know. It's let's just say she likes them all. But there are some that are really expansive, like Kim's intuitive, that will go into it, and Debbie that she really loves. There's some that that are still learning,
Hmm.
can only pull in a little bit of it, but
Yeah,
that's how it works. So everybody's
exactly.
with their talents and stuff like that. But
Well, I know as I've started to open up about doing personal readings for people, and of course, the first question I get hit with is, "Well, how much do you charge?" And
mhm,
I tell people I don't charge anything.
mhm,
I go strictly by donation or barter. If you want to,
mhm,
if all you have is $2, fine, send it. If you don't have any money, that's okay too. If
mhm.
you make things or something, you can
Or
send me something you made. I love personalized artwork and stuff. Um, I have my Amazon wish list posted. You can go buy something off the list if you want. I
mhm,
just got. Um, I had an oracle deck that I had marked that I wanted,
mhm.
and it came in this week. I don't know. I don't know who sent it. It was anonymous, but I got it, and I'm loving it. I've got it out. I haven't really used it yet. I'm still enjoying going through it and looking at all the pictures of it.
Oh, there's one thing I don't ever say all the time. Hello, Sharon Sight.
Hi, Karen.
She
And
says smart, buddy, and I know my chance to say it back. And Anita Garola, you're all right, kid. Well, but
that's right, Pet. I forgot about that Pegasus. Yeah, thanks for reminding me. Pegasus is going to be coming through here in the spring,
mhm,
and we were talking, and she does like energy portraits, right? Do I
mhm.
have that right, Pegasus? Um, and she was like, "Well, I can do a drawing, a portrait for a reading." I'm like, "Sold," and so that's exciting. I love that kind of stuff, and because it's
Yeah,
something that comes from the heart of somebody. And I'd
yeah,
much rather have somebody give me something that they made in appreciation than somebody sending me $50 for 30
yeah,
minutes. It's like, that's just, I mean, it'll be nice eventually to get to the point where I can monetize and make some money off of it. But that's not why I do it. It's
I,
because
I would feel
I
bad
really
taking.
feel like I'm helping people and it's
Mhm,
fun. And when it stops being fun and I stop helping people, then I walk away. It's like,
mhm,
that's not why I'm here. Oh,
mhm.
just a regular portrait. Okay. I don't know why I was thinking energy portrait. Somebody else I know does energy portraits, and they were
Yeah,
saying they were going to do one. So,
when, yeah. When I was 13, the time we went as a family to the Medicine Man, it was an all night ceremony because it's something that you can get taken care of pretty easy. My uncle
I
will
have
do
my
it.
medicine bag.
My uncle will do
I
it
keep
like
my pendulums in it.
my uncle will do it in about an hour. That's all it takes. And
Yeah.
it's taking. You know, but if it's something that's more involved and needs certain plants, certain roots, certain time of the day, certain this and that,
Yeah.
certain time of the year, then they have to do an all night one, and that's a serious one. And that's when you have to take extra care to what you got to do. And
Right.
sometimes a medicine man or a medicine woman will come in and do what they need to do, and and there's a preparation before and afterwards too. And then after you're done with it, there's a bunch of don'ts that don't go and do the same stuff that got you here in the first place. Be responsible.
Exactly. Learn from that mistake.
Right, right. So if like in my case, a girlfriend's bothering me, so does that mean I go back to the girlfriend and try to get back with her? Heck no. It means, leave me alone and here's some,
Yeah.
crucifixes and garlics. I'll put that up and
Learn
keep
from your mistakes.
yeah,
Don't keep making the same mistakes over again.
not with the same person
You
too.
know. Oh,
Yeah,
Terry wants to know what tribe you're from.
I'm from the Navajo tribe, but I'm also part Hispanic too. So,
Okay, okay.
but
I have a smidgen of Cherokee, so
the
yeah,
Navajo
don't know how
language is
much of it, but a little bit.
yeah, the Navajo language is not my first language, so no. Uh, that came about in the 70s because I would go to school and kids that were Navajo would get laughed at in school and get picked on,
Yeah,
and they would get treated pretty bad in our school. So and that was a Catholic school,
It was the
and
same for the Cajun kids here.
yeah, so they get
They
treated.
just about wiped away the language because you weren't allowed to speak. Kids weren't allowed to speak it in school. And
So I couldn't.
in most of your Cajun families, you grew up speaking French first,
Yeah, and then we
English second, and
them
it
and
was
nuns.
difficult. And then they realized the damage that was being done, and now the last 20 years, I guess, they've put a lot of emphasis in the public schools of French immersion classes of bringing the language back,
Yeah,
because
like
they never completely got rid of it because
yeah,
of Cajun and Zydeco music,
mhm,
because that's all done in French. So you have to understand some of it in
mhm,
order to sing the music because it's in another language. So
yeah.
they never lost it completely. But
And at our school, we couldn't even talk Spanish either,
yeah,
because a lot
oh
of the
yeah,
nuns from Mexico too to teach us. They were I forgot what they were, but most of the order that were in charge of us were Franciscans, and they're pretty mean, and the Dominicans too. They're pretty mean. We had a Carmelite brother that used to pick on a lot of the students there too. He used to beat some of the kids up. And then one day he made the mistake and grabbed me. And I told my dad. My dad was, deputy sheriff in Gallup. He went over there and straightened him out real quick. The next day at school, I see the police car pull up outside, the squad car. My dad get out and go inside with his Andy Griffith uniform. And he went in there and he found that brother, knocked on the door, came in our class, and he says, I want to talk to you a moment out here. Then he came out there, the brother, this 300-pound brother. He went out there. My dad started throwing him around like a rag doll against the
yeah,
lockers. These lockers go boom, 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 boom in the hallway. All the kids are looking out the window to see what's going on. And he goes, if one of these kids suffers a scrape, you're going to get a broken arm. He goes, if one of these kids ends up, bloody, you're going to the hospital.
yeah,
And he goes, one of these kids ends up any more than that, I'll see you. I'll be planting you in the graveyard, he told him. And he goes, I don't care if I lose my job. And then he goes, now do we understand each other? After that, that brother didn't pick on any of the kids there anymore. He
yeah.
got real quiet after that.
For entertainment purposes only, YouTube. Let me insert that real quick.
And then he
But
went away.
yeah, no, I went to Catholic school for 1 year when we lived in Florida, and my best friend rode the bus with me, and she was a young African American girl.
Mhm.
And when we would get off the bus, where the bus would outload us, was right next to. We were in fourth or fifth grade, I don't remember, but we got let out on the bus right next to the eighth graders' classrooms. And there were a couple of bullies that the minute we'd come off the bus, they'd start with the ugly name calling. And
Mhm.
I mean, not just her, but they would call me names as well. And one day I remember one of them said something really, really ugly, and she burst into tears. And I just saw red.
Mhm.
And I marched up and I kneed him in the crotch to get him down to my level. And then I plowed him into the face, and I broke his
Sometimes,
nose.
sometimes
And
you have
I
to do that.
remember being, and the brothers, we had not full priests, just brothers,
Mhm.
um, just stood there and watched this happen before.
Yeah,
It wasn't until the blood started flying that they broke it up. They
yeah.
sent me to class, and then they took care of him. And
Mhm.
then about an hour went by, and a nun came to the classroom and said, Mother Superior wants to talk to you.
Mhm.
And everybody's like, oh crap, Sherry's in trouble. And I got into, Mother Superior's office, and she asked me what happened. And I told her, and then she said, well, what did he say? And I was like, I can't repeat that. Not to you. She's like, no, you can't repeat it this one time and you'll not be in trouble for it. And
Mhm.
so I told her exactly what was said, and she literally went white in the face. I mean, she lost all color. And she
Mhm.
said, okay, go back to class.
Mhm.
And he was expelled. He was not allowed back to school.
Good.
And so I
I
kind of
don't.
got a little bit of a rep that year.
Yes. Sometimes they do that. You have to push them. They push you that far to where you have to draw blood. I've been into a few fights when I was a kid. And I'm not a tough guy or anything like that. I tried to avoid them. I'm a coward. I tried to avoid a bloody nose or a scrape this or that. But when you have to do it, you have to do it. But
Yeah,
you have to think about 4 or 5 steps ahead. What's going to happen if this happens? How many bullies are
exactly.
on my door afterwards? And
Exactly.
Gallup was like that. In the 70s. because I can't really describe it to somebody unless you actually lived it. It's like trying to tell my kids about something like this today, and they can't relate to it unless somebody. I'm there sitting there with the class of 82, talking to somebody else. Then they went through the same things that I went through, and then they know what I'm talking about. And but Gallup was quite a collage. And there were three Indian tribes there: the Zuni and
Hmm.
the Hopi, and then also the Navajo. But then there's more that come in there.
Yeah.
Like the further
I
over with.
think the tribe that I lived next to, the reservation I lived next to, I want to say they were Hopi.
Hmm.
It was the McDowell Indians, is what they called it
Uh-huh.
on the reservation. So I'm not. I'm I'm pretty sure that they were Hopi, but they might have been Navajo because I know right in that area they kind of get a little mixed, depending which direction you go in as to which tribe is there.
Hmm.
And I never really said anything because God forbid I didn't want to offend anybody. It was just because everybody was just always so nice and so pleasant.
Hmm.
Um, my mother had come out to Phoenix and lived with me for a few years, and she literally adopted, I think, every one of the guys that worked in the little store where we would go. She'd walk in the door and they would all stop whatever they were doing to go hug her neck.
Hmm.
And so that was just the kind of effect she had on people.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, so it's. I know some people get really wound up with "don't put the wrong label on me,"
Hmm.
and to me, it's like we're all brothers and sisters. Who it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter your color, your race, your
Then I have a.
whatever. You
Uh,
know.
I asked, I said, and people ask me, why did you become Catholic? And I go, it's not because I love God. That that didn't even weigh into it at that time. I'm 13, 13, 12 years old, and I'm not running away from anything, so I'm not afraid of too much back then. Just certain bullies here and there, and I
Yeah.
wasn't. Nothing forced me to go to the church. What it was girls
Yeah.
because the girls were prettier, and I used to go over to that school and hang out and watch them. And then one day, one of them took me by the hand and said, "Come on, let's go to church." And I liked her, and that's what happened. The girls got me into the church. I could have easily been Jewish, but that costs money. And Mormon, that's another one that come out and grab you and gallop. The
There
Mormon.
you go. Heather's asking if she can email you if she was to
Sure.
invite you on your channel. I'll
I
give
don't know.
her your.
Yeah, give her my email.
Okay. I don't like to give out emails unless I have permission. So
Yeah,
I
I'm pretty
always ask
I'm pretty
first.
good at that.
So Heather, I'll send it to you after the show.
Nita Garolla's
Um,
having a hard time finding my number too. I don't know if I can say it. I don't know what will happen. She can have anything she wants. Um, yeah, it's movie lowercase movie like a movie maverick one word movie maverick one at gmail.com,
yeah.
and you can get up with me there, and I'd be happy to talk to you, or
Yeah.
just
Heather's a sweetheart. So I've done several of the cold case files
hmm
with her, missing people or murdered people.
hmm
I had never, I've always been intrigued by that kind of stuff, just watching it on TV, but I'd never
hmm
really done any readings or anything
uh-huh.
until I met Heather, and then she's had me come on several times. That's a
hmm
lot of fun. It's a different. It's like making your brain go into a different hallway to
hmm
to try to access some of that. So
yeah.
and
Yeah, one time, Clara told
the
my cousin.
Yavapai Nation. That's it. Okay.
Yeah, Clara told my cousin. She says, "You saw me one time," and I go, "When was that?" I go, "Are you talking about like in my dreams or like in a flash of something or other?" She goes, "No, you saw me," and I go, "When was that?" And I go, "You had my Christmas stocking hanging over there last year," and I go, "Yeah," and then you looked at it and you saw some puff of smoke right by the Christmas stocking. She goes, I was looking in the Christmas stocking to see what you bought me. I go, well, it was a Shirley Temple DVD. She likes that. So I put that in the stocking and I was trying to hide it. I left it, I wrapped it up and put it in there. And she goes, you know what? I know what it is. I go, oh, great. Great. So, that's what it was. And she busted me. So, but it was there's like a 3 set of DVDs of Shirley Temple, so that's in there. The Little Rascals from like the 20s. They were called Our Gang back then, so I have a few of those too, and just stuff to cheer her up, and a lot of Christmas movies. So those were in there, and every year she makes me watch the Jimmy Stewart movie. He has Clarence and I have Clara. So
Oh yeah, that's it.
okay,
Every time a bell rings, an angel gets its wings. That's one of my favorite movies. I watch that one every year, and then my son and I watch. We have a Christmas Eve movie date every year, and we watch Die Hard together.
Yeah,
and people are like, "That's not a Christmas movie," and I'm like, "Yes, it is. It happens at Christmas time. It's a Christmas movie."
This will give you an idea right here. So I don't know if we're going to get in trouble for copyright.
Oh yeah, there you go.
There's movies there. You see them?
Oh yeah.
That's where
I used to have I've got a big wicker basket full of Blu-rays and DVDs, and but it's been a while since I've actually sat down and watched. Of course, now we've got Disney and we've got Hulu, and we've got Netflix, and I've got
Clara
HBO.
likes this room too, so
Yeah.
you got all the record albums there and there too, and going down the hallway.
Awesome.
So as long as something don't happen, I'm okay with it. One time when I was, this was probably about 2005 or so. 2005, I was going through a bad again too, and I go, is it going to get any better? Is it really going to get any better? I'm sitting here like this, and I said, is it going to get any better? Am I going to see finally a break in all this? And then all of a sudden on this side, on the left side again, I heard, it will get better. It will get better. Have faith, it will get better. And I looked over and I thought, there's a Catholic statue there, so I just attributed that to, Mother Mary or something like that, or an angel. Yeah. And it was an angel, but my cousin told me later on that was Clara telling you that. So I said, okay. So every now and then I do hear her, and she has that real soft voice. It's kind of like a Brooklyn accent, kind of a little bit of, it's something where I can recognize it. And I go, oh, okay, things started getting better, but it took a while. It takes a while, I'm not the smartest, person in the world, it takes me a while to figure these things out because I'm careful about it. I don't want to hurt somebody or tick somebody off, And about a year later, a year after that, in 2007 or so, I had a dream, and it's black and white, the dream, and I was on a train. I got up and I went to go get something to eat. I went to their cafeteria room, and I sat down there, and I got my hands like this, and I'm saying, "Oh God, is anything going to ever get better?" And I looked up, and then in front of me, there was a young Elvis Presley sitting in front of me. And I recognized him, and I said, is it going to get any better? And he says, it will get better. It will get better. And he just faded away. Yeah. And I went up and I go, God, what the heck was that? And I told my aunt about that, and she goes, okay. She just accepted it. I never told Sterling. I got to tell him that one the next time I have another appointment with him. But,
oh, yeah, for sure.
And then 2007 came, and I met a crazy girl, and, Clara didn't like that. I know now she probably, if I got back with that girl, I'd probably feel a kick in my rear, in the middle of the night. I think that would happen, because, why repeat the same mistakes again,
exactly. And I've been known to do it myself, and then step back and kick myself and be like, Sherry, you should have learned that the first time.
Yeah, my uncle told me, he goes, once you break that cord, keep it broken, keep going back there and cutting it again if you have to, let them know and tell them, no, you're not allowed in my dreams. You're not allowed in my space. You need to go. That was then bye. Even, it's like an abuser, like if somebody, let's say here in the 3D world being an abuser, they don't get the hint. They don't get the hint. You have to club them over the head or get
I had a good friend that was in a very physically abusive relationship. This was decades ago. Mm-hmm. And I know the hardest thing to understand about it was why she didn't leave.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and it wasn't until later when I went back to college and took psych classes and um, before I realized the psychological damage that is done
Mm-hmm.
first, before the first
Mm-hmm.
slap or punch ever comes.
Right, and
It's you know, it's that
it's the mental
getting you
condition.
under their thumb and making you feel like you can't survive on your own. And
Right, and then you get hardwired like that to think that's normal, you know.
yeah,
And
yeah,
what's this poor girl going to do when she meets somebody, you know, or this poor guy going to do when he meets somebody that's normal? They're going to treat them like shit, you know. And that's
yeah,
usually what happens, you know. So
exactly.
that's what usually happens, you know. So that girl, that crazy girl, she had a lot of issues, you know. She told me of, I'm not going to mention her name, but she's still alive and walking around. And what had happened was even that will kind of take it off, set it off. So let me try to back up. I'll go back to what happened when she was young, very young. Her father molested her, and then her life went
Hmm.
there. And she met some guy that she thought he was going to be the end all be all, and that and a bag of chips. Well, he wasn't. What had happened there was he started was a drug dealer in town, and you know, and he did a lot of bad things to her. He injected her with drugs and tied her to a bed, and then she was in bed for probably about a month, and she just slowly started dying, you know. And then she was able to get a hold of her sister in a different city, and her sister came down there and got her out of that house, and you know did what she could to get her out of there and away from that guy. And then like 3 months later, she went back to him again, you know, and same thing. This time, you know, he got her like that again. And what had happened was he dumped her off at the emergency room in the parking lot of the hospital and left her there, and then just drove away. So somebody like that, you know, that is that far gone, they're never going to be completely normal again. You know, there's some
No, and
damage.
those that grow up in an abusive family around them tend to, because it's a sense of familiarity, they
Hmm.
tend to go right back into those kind of relationships
Hmm.
as adults, you know,
Yeah.
where they're either the abuser or they hook up with other abusers that
Hmm.
treat them the same crappy way. And it's breaking that repetitive notion, you know, of no, let's not go that way. It's not good for you. And
Trying to break
yeah,
that.
I've
That's
dated a few crazy people in my life too. It's like, oh my
mhm.
God, trying to get away from that. And it's hard to
They just try to
I
make
mean,
you.
it's hard enough for yourself to break that mold and not fall for that again. But then when you break away, it's really hard to get that other person to leave you alone.
Hmm.
I mean, it used
They
to
don't.
be kind of
Yeah.
easier to do because you could sort of disappear.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's really
You meet
hard because
yeah.
you can
Hmm.
find anybody on the internet. So
Yeah,
pretty
you can.
much,
And
and
then I don't know. It's like that. So it took me a while to get rid of her. You know, to get away from that person, get away from you know everything hurtful that they were doing, and then it got to the point where they were going through my trash at nighttime, taking things and then putting spells on them. You know,
yeah,
and my uncle told me this, and you know I know what they're up to. I know that they do things like that. You know, but you know their time's going to come. It's just you know I can't really do anything about it,
oh,
and I'm
I'm a
not.
firm believer in karma.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
can't.
you sow what you reap, what you sow. It's yeah,
Yeah, yeah. A long time ago, was my attitude was fight them back. You know, give them what they deserve. You know, and I did that for a while, but even that gets expensive and tiring, and people get hurt. You know, innocent by pain in the ass bystanders, you know, get hurt. You know, so a friend could get hurt that you know is trying to help you out, and they get swept into this. So you don't want to do that. So you know, sooner or later, they're going to learn and they're going to go away. And Lady Saul really helped me there, you know, and I got to contact her again on certain things too because
I've seen her a couple of times with Allie. She seems
she's
really
direct.
good at what she's doing. You know,
And then
she's really plugged in.
yeah, she understands the Native American and the Hispanic side of it too. So, and
Right. Yeah. Yeah,
there
because
was
it's
that.
a different culture. It's a different mindset. A
Mhm,
lot of people don't realize it's not that you can't empathize or sympathize with someone who's different than you, but
mhm,
there's an extra hurdle you have to go over
mhm.
to understand that culture and why someone of that culture does what they do and the
Mhm.
way that they do it.
Yeah,
And it may sound crazy to you, but that's normal for them. So, I'm sure there's things in my culture that people from others look at and go, "Oh my God, what are they
yeah.
doing?"
And
Um,
there's a man up there by the state fairgrounds up here in Albuquerque, and he's Hispanic and from Mexico, and he does the readings and stuff like that too. But English is not his first language. So I said, "How's
mhm,
this work?" I thought, how's this going to work? Well, when there's a will, there's a way. So I went
yeah,
in there and paid the money, and it was reasonable. It was easy, and I asked him, how is all this true? Does Claire have any other messages for me? And then that's when I got that message to, you know, read that book, The Secret. So she told me to read that.
that book was an epiphany for me when I read it. When I
I'm,
got it, it was
I'm
like,
still, yeah. Every time I try to get into it, something comes up and I have to go do something. See, I live here
yeah,
alone, so here I am trying to pay bills and trying to cook, so I'm trying to keep the house up, try to, and I live
I
in the
know
main.
it.
I'm
I
taking care
work
of.
full time. My son lives with me. He battles PTSD really bad,
She told
and
me to Yeah, she told me to
it
read that book, and then she told me
yeah
a few things too to kind of keep me going and stuff like this. And then I thought that might be a language barrier problem, but nope. It went, spirit
yeah
will find a way to get to you. And
oh
she
yeah
made them well known, and he made them well known to me. And so now, I've adopted some of their things too. So when her birthday comes along, I always have flowers. And when her date of death comes, I have flowers too. Christmas time, there's always flowers. And we had this little thing too. She was in like 55 different movies. So what I do is the flower guy'd come to the door and I'd go, flowers for Mary Preston. That was one of her characters in her movie. Flowers for Dot Morgan. That was another character. Flowers for Betty,
then do
Betty.
you watch that movie?
So, yeah, because I know all these names. So the thing is, and the flower guy scratching his head out there, he goes, "Is there like 50 women in there?" But that's all right.
Like
You
this
know,
this dude's lucky, man. We got to figure him out.
well, that's the funny part too. So I put these flowers up for her, and then I remember that I burned a candle on her birthday, and I
Yeah,
placed her movies and talked to her like I'm talking to you, And I said, "Well, if I got anything going on, please let me know, and if I'm doing the right things, let me know." And then I talked to Allie and Sun Psychic Gene, and they said, "Yeah, you're moving in the right direction." She's
Jean
very.
is very plugged in too.
Hmm.
She, I mean, I watched her a few times with Allie, and then I got to meet her. I mean, online, but we did Pictionary
Hmm.
through Tarot Love Community when they do game night, and we did Pictionary. We were on the same team,
Hmm.
and so she and I and Sheila Celtic Tarot were one team together,
Hmm.
and it was really nice, kind of getting to know her, and getting to know Sheila, on a kind of face to face value. That was really great, and
Yeah, and then when this started happening too, I could get and because all the psychics have a schedule, have money, you have to get past those two barriers. I
mhm.
was reading from like Linda G, but she's just so busy,
Oh,
and
I know.
doesn't do personal readings anymore.
I
So,
I emailed her like for 3 months trying to ask her to come on my show, and
mhm,
she was getting ready to do a live answer questions, put your
mhm,
questions in the thing below. And so I put in there, my question is, when will you come on my show? I've been emailing you and emailing you. So she's going through the list and she gets to mine and reads it out loud. And then she stopped and she
mhm.
said, wait a minute. And she said, well, email me again right now so it'll be in my memory. And she responded like the next day. And so she's
Good.
coming on November 2nd. She's coming on my
I'm
channel.
glad.
And
Well,
I'm
and
just beside
well,
myself. I'm so excited. And
So one of the big name psychic I got a hold of was Sterling. I went right to the top because he dealt with entertainment people, and it
Mm-hmm.
made it real after that what Clara wanted, and she wants me to write a book. She wants me to tell people about it and not to be afraid of death, and it's just like a service interruption for a little while. You wake up somewhere else,
Yeah.
and don't be afraid of it, and just nurture and
Oh,
trust
yeah,
the
I
people.
love to watch Sterling too because he just seems really plugged right in. It's like wow. I know when I got the email back from Linda saying, "Yeah, I'll come on. I'm available on this date at this time." I'm like,
Uh huh.
you got
And
it down. It was the middle of a work week during the middle of a work day. And somebody said, "What are you going to do?" I said, "I'm taking the day off from work."
mhm. Yeah,
So I told my boss, I have a friend coming in from out of state. I need the day off.
right. It definitely
I didn't
warrants
tell him
on.
it was virtual, but you know.
Mhm. In my case, it's all, I'm retired, so I can kind of,
There
play
you
with the
go.
schedule.
I've got a few more years to go
Well, I could have
before I hit
retired.
retirement.
I could have retired when I was 23, but I tried to work and only aggravated my problem. But yeah, but with Sterling, I let him know that, I told Clara, I'm so sorry. I did the worst thing a man can do to a woman. I ignored you. I didn't know you were there.
Yeah.
And then she started giggling and laughing, and she says, "It's okay. It's okay," because I knew the day would come when you'd hear me. And that's why I tell her before I go places. I tell her,
And most secure women will feel like that. They'll be like they know that they can't be someone's they can't be the attention of someone all the time.
yeah, I,
You know.
I had to go to that because I found out too that her husband used to do that to her.
Mm,
Yeah, and she didn't like that. So I can't repeat those same behaviors. So I try to be a little bit more considerate than that. One time,
yeah.
there's an old hospital we have here in town. It's called Memorial Hospital. They made it into a hotel now, and people stay there. And
Yeah.
it's not a good place to stay, but it's called Park Central Hospital. It's
Right.
on
You're in Los Angeles?
no, I'm in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Albuquerque. Okay.
It's on
But you used to live in Los Angeles.
yeah, that's where it's born.
Okay.
So
Okay. I knew
and
Los Angeles figured in there somewhere. It
yeah,
was in my head. So yeah,
and
no.
yeah, I-25 and Central. That's about where that restaurant or not restaurant, but that's where that hotel is today. And I went. And there's a hill behind it, so I parked in my car and I overlooked that with my cousin, and I said, "Clara, can you see anything right there?" And it was nighttime, and she goes, "I can see the undead moving around. I can see their spirits moving around still. There's a bunch of them there." She goes, "Do
Yeah,
you
I
see
know
that
when
smokestack in the hospital?" And I said, "Yeah, that hospital." And she goes, "That smokestack, that's where they used to burn the bodies at. They had an incinerator there. I can see them
yeah,
going up the smokestack." And I go, "Oh my God." And she
yeah,
goes, "I don't want you going in that hospital." And I said, "Okay, I won't." So,
yeah, I know when my son was still in the Navy, when he finally got his order, because he was stationed in San Diego right out of boot camp
mhm,
and for school. And then when they finally gave him his orders, his home port was Hawaii. I was
mhm,
like, who goes from San Diego to Hawaii when they first joined the military? Could you have pulled a better detail? I mean, he was like, yeah, mama got a free trip to Hawaii.
mhm,
And he did. When he got back from his second deployment, he
mhm,
flew me out to Hawaii. He took me to the Arizona, to the
mhm,
memorial. And I don't know why I didn't ever think it through, but I didn't realize that the white building thing that's the memorial is
mhm,
actually spans the ship. It's over the
mhm,
top of the
mhm.
ship. The ship
Yeah.
is underneath you. And when we went, the minute I stepped onto the bridge thing that goes over the ship, it literally I felt like I was drowning the minute I stepped on it. And that
Mhm.
was before I had opened myself up to any of this stuff. But I could feel their fear
Yeah.
and the distress that they felt.
So
And
she
it was
told me
weird because you
go on.
look over the side
Mhm,
and the water's so clear, you feel like you can reach down and touch it. You
mhm,
know, um, I think it's really cool that the Navy has allowed those those that served on that ship who survived Pearl Harbor.
Mhm.
when they die, they can have their ashes interred
Mhm.
into the ship. And they do
Mhm.
like a special ceremony a couple of times a year where they'll do this big ceremony to bring these ashes back, and they put them in a special container and they bring them down to the ship.
Mhm.
Divers bring them down and put them in the ship with their
Mhm.
shipmates. And I'm like, that's just so cool, that they can
They
finally
were
be put together.
mates, Mhm. And then they never left anyway.
No,
I remember that a friend of mine, he was one of my roommates in the Air Force. And nobody's ever been in the military. In those days it was two guys to a room, and then interconnecting bathrooms. So he was Native American too, and I forgot what tribe he was in, but he was there, and he goes, Craig, I'm having these nightmares. And I go, what's going on? He goes, I'm hearing voices. And I go, well, you can't tell that to a military doctor, they'll kick you out. What's going
yeah.
on? And he goes, well, that's why I'm telling you. And I go, I won't tell anybody. And this is 30 years now, 35 years later. And he says, I'm hearing and seeing things. And I go, okay, what are they? And he goes, they're shadows. And I'm hearing old music from like the 30s. And I go, okay, wow, I'd like to hear that. I said, he goes, not the way I'm hearing it. And I go, what had happened? And he goes, well, I went to Auschwitz when I was on the tour. Went through that prison camp. He goes, and I think I picked something up. And I go, I know you did. Let's go ahead and say a quick prayer about it. And then I want you to take, he goes, maybe two stripes on him, and he, just got there, and then so I outranked him, and so he listened to me as a supervisor. And I said, go back home and have a ceremony done so you can leave it behind, and don't ever go back there again. Seal it. It's enough to respect what those people went through, but you don't
Yeah.
have to carry it on because it's not your burden. We all have our own burdens to carry in life.
Yeah.
So he did that, and about a month later, things started slowly getting better, and he stopped hearing the
Well, I know
music,
when I
stopped
first
smelling.
started opening myself up to all of this and letting things happen, and I don't know why I didn't think about it at the time, about making sure that I was protecting my family,
Hmm.
because it's not just my son that lives with me, but my brother and his son. We all live together, because it's just too expensive anymore to live anywhere.
Yeah.
And so it's just kind of, we help each other out. We're all together.
Hmm.
And my son, one late night weekend, I was up because I get insomnia really bad. And he got up and he was like, I had a nightmare. He never has nightmares. And
Hmm.
it really flipped him out. And I started thinking about it. And I thought, here I am opening these doors in my eagerness to grow my skills. And I'm forgetting to put protection around everyone else for them
Hmm.
not to be affected. And I
Hmm.
told him, I said, well, then I need to do a cleansing in your room. And he just rolls his eyes at me. He doesn't believe any of this.
Hmm.
Neither does my brother. But
Hmm.
they indulge me. They know that I do. And so they made a point of putting up my hanging walls. So I
Hmm.
have my private space and everything. And so my son just kind of rolled his eyes. He's like, yeah, okay, just don't do it when I'm there because I don't like the smell.
Hmm.
I said,
Hmm.
okay. But at that point, I started, especially during full and new moons, I started walking around the outside of the apartment and smudging the windows and the doors from the
Hmm.
outside because my brother's allergic to the smoke. So I can't
Hmm.
do it inside. So I do it outside, and it seems to be helping.
Hmm.
He hasn't had any more nightmares since then. So
You can, and then also there's salt you can put by the window sills too.
yeah,
And
yeah,
in the Navajo tradition, what we do is we have a fire there burning all the time, like fire, a fire pit of some sort. And my uncle, he lights up a fire and he puts his crystals out and he puts his, you know, it's called setting up the altar. So he puts those
right,
things up. And then in the crystal, when I have a problem or an issue, I can see what's going on. I don't know, that got turned on somehow in me, and I can see who the troublemaker is. When I look in the crystal, you know, and then they go away after the ceremony. They're gone. But
yeah,
and then when somebody else comes up and I'm sitting right next to them, the stuff that's related to me is not there anymore in the crystal. It's their problem, their issue that comes up.
Right.
You know.
Well,
So
let me show you. I mean, I have my altar set up, as you can see right there, and I've got my salt lamp and my stones and candles and an incense burner, but I have to take that outside. I made my own rattle when I took a shaman class, and they were like, "You need a rattle," and I'm like, "Well, I don't have money to go buy a rattle," so I made one. And that seems to have worked
and
quite
also,
well.
Also, when you put the black salt down, you know, use the black salt, but also in any of your blessings, when you use sage and stuff like that, take the ashes from it, mix it with the black salt, and put that by the window as ash. They'll keep
Okay.
guys away from your house. You know.
Okay. Okay. That's good to know.
So when I do it, you know, and I burn Arizona sage that my uncle has when I'm asked for prayers and stuff like that. When I'm asking, you know, to link up with spirit and stuff like that, I'll do that. And one day I was doing that in the house, you know, and saying my prayers, you know, and Clara goes, I can smell Arizona, because she goes down to the the ceremonies with me. She likes that, you know, she likes the ceremonies. And, you know, the first half is to get rid of your issues, anything bad that's bothering you in that first half hour. And then in the middle of it is a prayer to keep the spirit with you. And then after that, it's kind of like blessings. You ask for good things to come to you. And while we're doing that, I'm asking for blessings. I'll take out Clara's picture and you know, my friends, my family, and you know, whatever property I have, like my wallet represents that. I take that out. My uncle blesses that, and then we're okay. And then there's special things you can do for your vehicle and your, you know, your pet, things like that too.
Oh, we're not going to talk about vehicles.
Yeah,
I'm still carless. I still have no car, so.
Oh man, if you were only in New Mexico, you know, you could get a car pretty easy. But you know, I go through it all the time here.
I was supposed to have one that my cousin was going to give me, but things on his end kind of got screwy, so it just hasn't gone through. So it's just been one of those weird things where it's like nothing seems to go and connect all the way through. You think, oh, it's going to happen. This is going on. And then it falls through. So I'm like, okay, I'll just be patient. I'll wait. Spirit's going to bring me something that I'm really going to like. So that's what I'm manifesting. It's like, I don't care what kind it is. I don't care what color it is. I just want it to look nice and to run well. Those are my only parameters for it.
And that will happen too. It will happen too, you know.
Yeah, it's just going to take time.
It takes time, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like in mine, you know, I always wanted a Model A. You know, I've wanted one since I was like 9 years old when I first saw one. And then when Clara sent me a different dream showing me her standing by one in California, you know, and I thought, I guess that means something. And then I started getting geared toward buying one, and then all of a sudden, you know, whispers in my ear, this one's the one, you know. And that was the one. It's in my garage right now. I'm happy.
No, if I could have my dream car, it would be a 64 and a half Mustang convertible.
Yeah, there's one out in my garage of those too.
Oh God.
Let's go out and look at it.
And no, because when I was 5, a friend of my mother's had just gotten one and came over to pick her up, give her a ride to work. And I just remember being out in the yard and hearing the sound of that motor when he drove into the driveway, and my head came up and my eyes got big, and yeah, that's what I'm talking about right there. And he won, and it was black on black inside and out. And he took me for a ride around the block in it. And that was it. And there's your Model T. Yeah.
Or Model A. There's
Model A, I mean,
Roosevelt and stickers on it. Yeah, a 1930.
That's cool.
1930 license plate on it. I better get out of here before you get a copyright strike on the music. That's like 70-year-old music, so I don't think so.
Yeah, you never know nowadays. There's always somebody going to complain. But if I could have my dream car, it would be a Mustang. And because that was the first vehicle I remember just capturing my attention. It was like, wow, that's it. And so I've not had one yet, but I'm working on it. One day.
And then it's the everyday Toyotas I drive around in. Those are my boring cars. They're reliable, but they're boring. If you have to get to the hospital, they'll get you there.
Yeah.
They're not going
I
to give
just
you
want something that doesn't look like a hunk of junk.
Oh,
I don't want a rust bucket that looks like it's falling apart. And I just want something that looks nice and runs well. I'm very easy to please.
all this stuff is kind of easy for me to get. Maybe I should have been a car dealer. I don't know.
There you go. And
doing now.
I know somebody that I know online was about a month ago, and we were chatting, and he was like, I didn't realize you still don't have a car. And I said, no, not yet. He was like, damn, I just gave one away to some charity in town because it was just sitting in the driveway rusting. And I was like, what do you think I've been talking about for the past year? And he's like, it never clicked. I said, well, it wasn't the car for me then. I said, otherwise, you'd have thought of me. And I said, something else is coming along. So I'll just wait. And it'll get here.
You'll get here. Those are small problems, though. They're not that bad. They're bad, but they're not really, really bad. They're not life and limb.
Right. Well, it's not like I go far. I'm tootling around town. That's about it. I'd like to be able to go to Florida and go visit some family and friends, go to the beach, but that's only about a 6-hour drive.
And you're not asking anything unreasonable either. It's just like the right to survive. Like food and shelter.
You just I want to be able to get in it and know that it's going to get me to point A and then back to point B, and I'm good to go. I'm very easy to please. So something's going to happen. Something's going to come along. And just when it's the right time, boom, it'll happen. And so that's me just being impatient.
When I think about that a long time ago, I was impatient, when I was a kid. Yeah. Some of that kind of leaves you when you get older, I was more the type to get, like if somebody hurt me or ticked me off, I'd get angry. A lot of that's kind of gone away now.
I've never really had that issue. Confrontation makes me physically ill.
Yeah.
It's like literally if somebody's like getting in your face, or if there's confrontation or an argument or something, I physically get ill, like throwing up type. I just can't deal with it. And
they'd have to really do
it just affects me that way. And it's like I can bend until I snap, but
you have to do something
it takes a lot to really get me to be angry. I'm
hurt my kid, or hurt my grandchildren, or my mom, or do something like that, to really get me, or even just be a Republican,
There you go. Well, I'm surrounded by those, so I've had to learn to be patient. I'm surrounded by the idiots. So
we're in a blue state, but south of here, where it gets close by Texas, then it starts turning red there.
Yeah, so, well, I'm down and towards the bottom of the boot in Louisiana, so I'm in Cajun country down here. So
I have a buddy in Shreveport. So
that's North Louisiana. That's a different culture altogether. That's totally alien to us.
One of these
I'm
days,
literally if you could just draw a straight line, I'm roughly about 3 miles from the Atchafalaya Swamp, which is the largest land-based swamp in the continental U.S. And the bridge to go across it is over 18 miles long to cross it. And out there is desert. When I went to Phoenix, I had never seen the desert before. I'll never forget the first time, that first spring, and I'm driving down the road, and I see this big, gorgeous flower coming out of the top of a saguaro cactus. I nearly wrecked the car trying to look at it. And I got to work, and I was like, oh, my God, there was this flower coming out of the cactus, and everybody's looking at me like I'm crazy And one of the guys says, "Yeah, it's springtime. They bloom." I'm like, I swear to God, I never knew that cactus had flowers coming out of it. I said, I don't know why I didn't know that. I just not what I expected to see. And of course, then I got teased about it unmercifully for the longest time because everybody that I worked with were all natives to the
Mhm.
area, so they all thought I was hilarious.
And you got to
And
see Grand Canyon and the Petrified Forests and Monument Valley, places like that. It really does something to you. You know, and trying to explain what a Hogan is to somebody too. A Hogan is where we have our Native American ceremonies.
yeah,
It's eight shaped. It's eight
right.
shaped. Uh,
Like a
log
hexagon, right? Isn't that a
cabin.
hexagon or is hexagon six side?
Yeah, it's made out of logs and it goes up and it's like a log cabin. It sits on earth.
Yeah.
Inside is an earth floor too. This is the very basic one I'm giving you, and it's got a earth covered roof too, and it's comfortable. I mean, when you go in there in the summertime, it's 70 degrees inside there. When you're there in the winter, it's warm because you got a pot belly stove in the middle of there. Always check your ventilation though. Always have your wood ready, and
Yeah. I
it's
remember when I lived in Phoenix, there was some new age guru or something that was holding a oh crap, I forget what you call it. When everybody goes in and they go into the building and it gets smoked up and they're
Mhm.
in there to cleanse and reach out and they didn't ventilate the
Yeah,
the
yeah.
area properly and they wound up, fortunately nobody died,
Hmm.
but there were quite a few that wound up being hospitalized for quite a bit from
Asphyxia.
smoke inhalation and other gases that come off of the herbs and stuff that burn in the smoke.
Yeah,
And
you also have
he actually wound up doing prison time for it,
yeah.
and because he just didn't bother to follow it through on how to do that properly. And
Mhm. Yeah,
I'm
and then
trying to remember now what they call it.
there's
Um,
also certain times they can do a ceremony too. If you're having problems like I do from time to time, I have to call my uncle and ask him first. Because sometimes there's a death in the family, and then they can't do one. They have to respect what happened in front of them right there, then there for a few days. Because when my mom passed, it was like 4 days after her funeral. You're not allowed to do a lot of stuff. I'm not supposed to be watching like Ghost Adventures on TV or anything like that. I can watch cartoons. Everything gets G-rated, and I have to stay with like my family members for 4 days, and then after that, I can it loosens up and I can do things because
oh,
that helps
interesting.
that
I
helps the
didn't.
spirit, that helps the spirit in your family move on to where they need to move on to.
Okay.
And
Now I know down here in the South, it's a big deal about when somebody dies or is very near to dying.
mhm,
The big thing is to cover all the mirrors in the house,
yeah, yeah,
like blankets or sheets or something over all the mirrors, because otherwise the spirit will get trapped in the mirror, trying to leave, and go to their next place to be, and
mhm,
um, and I know there are. I mean, I've been to some places where there have been mirrors in the house that just creep you out to walk past them, much less to look at them. Because it feels like somebody else is looking back, not you.
yeah.
And
Like
it's
my
just,
bedroom, I didn't know that. I had mirrors in there. First because the closet there has mirrors on it. They slide, and
yeah,
then put another one in there, and I didn't know. And I had a couple of them in there, and my cousin saw that, and she goes, "That's why you're not sleeping too, because at nighttime that turns into like a portal. It can
mm-hmm,
draw. So you need to cover those mirrors up and at nighttime and the daytime if you want to. Daytime it don't matter. Open the curtain,
right,
let the room know that it's morning.
yeah,
You know,
that it's everything's good. It's I know
clears up.
here I have a small little mirror I keep on the desk that I turn around to face outwards at night before I go to bed. And then
Mhm.
there's, of course, the mirror in the bathroom, and we just leave the bathroom door shut so that it's not. Of course, that's also a feng shui thing. They say don't leave uh, doors open in rooms that have a drain or anything like that on it, because it can pull the positive good luck energy out of the room. That's
Yeah,
what I've read. So
yeah. And just certain things like that, that you don't know until sometimes, unfortunately, you violate something.
yeah,
So
yeah.
you don't want, so
It's the
I
same taking stones from places without asking permission to remove that stone from that place.
right, like
And
that strange girlfriend of mine, there for a while, she told me she used to go find arrowheads around her house, and she'd pick these things up and save them. And I go, no, there's a certain thing you need to do. You need to wash them in water and say a quick prayer saying that it's not being to be used for that purpose, that somebody used it for 100 years ago or whenever.
right,
Just up and remove them from the area. And she would, and then now she's got all kinds of problems. So I
yeah,
don't need to experience any of that, that I don't need to. I'll be happy with a plastic arrowhead, because it's all about
yeah,
representation. You
yeah.
don't need one, unless,
Well, and again, and it's like, where's my
unless
phone?
it's something different to you. Then
When
it's a
I lived in Phoenix, and I know I've told this story before, uh, the the reservation where we would go buy cigarettes. One year they had put out a calendar,
hmm
and all of the artwork in the calendar were from local artists that lived there on the reservation. And some of it was pictures, some of it was drawings, some of it was paintings, just a variety of things. And so I got the picture here, just to give y'all a. That's my cat that we have now.
hmm
She found the potholder basket. That's where she likes to stay now. But
hmm
when I first got that calendar, and as I'm looking through it, and it was this one picture that literally grabbed me by the throat, and I heard in my head, "We're your guides." I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what the hell they were talking about. I didn't know
hmm
why I was hearing voices. It kind of flipped me out a little bit,
hmm
but I loved the picture. And so when I wouldn't let anybody use the calendar because of the fact of that picture, I didn't want it messed up. Well, then after the calendar year was over, here we go. Uh, my mother snuck the picture out of the house and went and had it matted and framed for me so that
hmm
I could keep it. And so that is in my room.
hmm
And but it's hard to see in a picture, but when you're actually standing in front of it looking, you can see all of these different faces within what looks like almost like wind blowing it, the way the picture looks. Um, but when you look at it, you can see faces, you can see shapes. For years, I looked at it and saw horses. And then somebody I know looked at it one day and said, "Well, what about the dragon in it?" I'm like,
hmm
"What dragon?" Because I collect dragons too. And sure enough, there's a dragon in it. I never even noticed it. But yeah, so I keep my guides with me. They
hmm
literally watch me sleep at night. So that's added
Oh yeah.
protection. You
hmm
know, I
Yeah.
figured they
Yeah.
got me covered.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I asked my cousin Loretta about that, and I go, "What happens, when I go to sleep? Clara, she keeps an eye on you. It's like a cord she's attached to you, when you're asleep, and then if you have an issue like a nightmare or something, she'll come down and wake you up real quick, get you out of it." And that
Oh, yeah.
happened. I'd wake up and I'd have bruises on me, and then I go, "All right, it's another Arizona trip. I got to go out to the reservation and get something reversed." Or a scratch or something like that. And then I asked Clara one time through my cousin, I said, "What happened when I had these bruises?" And she goes, "Well, in the middle of the night, what happened? You were tossing and turning, and then you said, 'I'm going to tell my uncle.' And then I woke you up." And then I go, "What happened?" And she goes, "A monster was trying to get you." That's what Clara told
Mhm.
my cousin. And she goes, "That's when I woke you up." And I go, "Okay, okay." But she also has the ability to take away bad dreams too.
Yeah.
So I don't carry the residual around unless it's something that pierces and catches you off guard, you know. But you
I
know,
know something just recently told to me, and it's happened to me for years, and I never really knew why. But to feel like somebody just touching my hair,
hmm
and like just running their fingers through my hair or something, and
hmm
I never really knew. It was like I don't know who's doing that, but it's kind of unnerving. And then not too long ago, one of the mediums I was chatting with, they were like, "Well, you know that's your husband
hmm
touching your hair." He said,
hmm
"Because he loves your hair." And I said, "Okay, that makes sense because I never cut it when we were together because he liked it long. It was like down past my waist. But
hmm
I would make him brush it because it was like, no, no, it's too thick. You want it long, you get to brush it." So, and he would sit for like an hour or longer, just sit and brush my hair. And
and
it to
and you,
me, that's the most relaxing thing in the world is somebody else messing with my hair and me not
mhm.
having to do it. And
Yeah, like when my mom passed, I had to clear up all her you know, her bills and stuff like that. So I was sitting at the office table in there in the kitchen, you know, at the kitchen table, going through all these bills and sorting through them. And I was on the phone with insurance people for a long time, you know. And during this time, I explained to Clara what I was doing. I was going to take like maybe a couple hours to go do this, and then 2 hours turns into 5 hours on the phone with insurance people. So I did what I needed to do, and then right in the middle of it, when I'm doing it, somebody kissed me on the forehead, you know, and then came by and kissed me on the cheek, and I go, okay, well, I know who did that, you know. And last time when I showed some of her films when she passed away, you know, I went to sleep that night, and then somebody came up to me and hugged me real hard on you know front on the front part of me, and you know, and I could smell them and I could feel them too. You know,
yeah,
she's like you know, like a like an older musky perfume, you know, and
hmm
like something that was around back in the olden days. You know, I'm saying the olden days. I probably shouldn't say that, but something like that they don't make anymore. You know, because of animal restrictions and things like that. But
right, right.
smell it, you know, really clear and things like that. You know, and she has told me different things over the period of years. But one a couple photos that really got me was this one,
Yeah, there we go.
and there's a shine on it. So yeah, that one came across,
There we
and
go. That's perfect.
that's what
That's
she
a
looks like.
great
Yeah.
shot.
Here's another one where I feel like she's looking into my soul,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, I can
and
see that. That's another great shot.
and then another one where she's being playful. But anyway, the one where she's looking into my soul, you know, that one is, you know, she has the eyes that follow you around the room, you know.
Yeah,
And then she also told me, you know, I can read your thoughts and I can feel your emotions, you know. And in all my life, I've never had anybody that close to me, you know. My my wife, my girlfriends, and things like that. I never had anybody that close to me, you know,
yeah.
and that could actually anticipate what I was going to do. Or, oh wow, there was a just a little while ago there was a flickering light over here, and and I'd have to agree with Sterling, and I have to agree with all the mediums that say that this was a soul contract between us.
Yeah,
And I tried to get her to tell me a little bit more, but she goes, "I can't tell you that, Craig. I can tell you some things, but I can't tell you it completely and fully
everything. Right.
until you get here. Then you'll know." I said, "Okay, well, all right. If that's the way it is, if that's the way it is, I'll let somebody carry it for me now. You know, because there's a beautiful story. There was this lady called Corey Ten Boom, and she's
Mm-hmm.
famous for hiding a bunch of Jewish people during World War II.
Yep.
She would
Oh, I
feature and
know who
stuff like
she is. Yeah.
that. She was a watchmaker, and her father Casper were the watchmakers in this small town in Holland. And the big thing was they had to go out of town to get the time, and the time was, you know, they were watchmakers, so he took his prized watch in town, you know, or in the store, and
Yeah.
they had he set the time by that in the city, in the big city next to them. So every month they had to get in this train, him and his daughter, and they went there and they got the time and brought it back and set all the clocks and watches in the shop to that. So that was a big joy to her as a little girl. She'd go
Yeah.
on the train with him, and this was like in the early 1900s. And then she went with her father one day, and she was coming to, you know, preteen years, and then she asked her father, when they were alone, she goes, what is sex sin? What does that mean? And then the father knew what it meant, and he didn't want to say it, out loud to her. He goes, Corey, dear, when it's time, I'll tell you. Your father loves you enough to carry this for you until he feels that you can handle it.
Yeah.
And that's what I feel it's like with Clara. She's just carrying it until it's time for me to tell me.
Yeah, when it's your time to know, you'll.
When it's my time to know, I'll know. And I'm finding a little bit more out as I'm going through. That it was a soul contract, and that we played this game before, and that this time when it's all over, we're going to go have chow mein and talk and have a good time like we are as friends. And that alone feeling that I get in this 3D life, is there. But I know that there's always something better. There's always something better. I'm not gonna worry about it so much. I still got to pay bills. I still have my aches and pains, and I still suffer from
God, ain't that the truth?
I still got that awful neighbor around the corner, and my girlfriend tries to bother me once in a while, but there's ways to combat that, take care of it, and send their intentions away, and that's about all I can do, because I'm not going to do anything overtly to them. That's not in my character.
Yeah.
Why create a fight? Because then they'll never go away.
Yeah.
One time I did do something back to just push it in their face and say, "Leave me alone." Because when they take away a curse from you, you're given two options. Either send it back to that person, like mirrors and stuff like that, and it comes back to them, tenfold sometimes.
Right.
And you can do that, but then again, you're causing a row. It goes back and forth and back and forth. So, or you can just send it away. So one time I got fed up with it and I sent it back, and they got scared after that, and they left me alone for about 2-3 years. Yeah, they're
Get a little taste of their own medicine. Yeah. Well, when you're dealing with, we deal with a lot of that down here. What with the voodoo, and even though that's more New Orleans than us, but it still spills over into this area as well. And
it's everywhere.
Yeah, I've always just been told to be very careful about what I send out to someone or what I send back to someone. That it's better to just wish it into the ground, to be absorbed by nature and never to bother anyone again. Then to send it back. That's what I was always told. So,
because if you ground it and send it away from you but not back to them, that's probably where it goes, and then it just goes away. And when you do that, they have no idea what you did. For all they know, their bad intentions are working. Then then as they say, the line goes dead for a while. But put up your protections too. Whatnot. Take care of yourself too. But
well, Craig, we need to wrap this up. We've been on for 2 hours, my dear. This has been a great conversation. I have really enjoyed it. You're going to have to come back so we can talk about this some more.
Hopefully I'll advance some more through this, and then start finding more stuff.
I'm sure. I mean, probably get a couple more people on and we can all talk about it, something to carry out. But this has been great, but my bladder is like, it's time to go to the bathroom. My 61-year-old body can't hold it like it used to.
I'm behind you, so I know how that feels too. So
there you go. I have so enjoyed this. I have been so waiting for you to be able to come on, and because we've become friends in the chat, just talking to each other, and it's like it just felt like I got to get my buddy on here. I just felt it very strongly. So thank Clara for me that I was able to get you on so we could talk about her and your experiences. And
I know she's really,
it's awesome.
I know she likes it when I talk about her, and I know how I feel about her too. And,
Good deal.
I was like missing her one day, and then she told me, all you have to do is think about me or look at a picture, and I'm there.
There you go. Yeah, they're that close.
But they're that close, So
yeah, I feel my mom all the time. And I know if I just think about her for a few minutes, I can smell her, I can feel her. So it's
Yeah,
great.
with my mom, I smell something in the kitchen cooking all the time,
Yeah.
which tells me I need to go in there and cook something too. Clara
All
looks
right,
like,
my dear. I'm
yeah,
gonna say goodbye now. Thank you everyone for coming.
yeah.
Thank you for all the neat stuff y'all been talking about in the chat. I've been trying to pin it up as it came across when I caught it.
Go back and read them.
A lot of good ideas. Yeah, that way you could see what they were saying. I mean, we've had people doing everything from giving directions on how to make black salt to, where to pour it. So it's been fun.
Yeah,
Thank
put a
you
little
again.
the window, each windowsill in the house.
Yeah. Thank you again for coming
Love the
on
door.
and for the exciting, I find it exciting anyway, conversation. I've really enjoyed this. And you have a blessed evening, and tell Clara hello for me. And we will talk with all of y'all really soon. Now I got to go to the ladies' room. So it's time to say goodbye. Bye, everybody.
All right. Until the next